What if the person controlling your country was born into the job? Or what if millions of citizens chose their leaders themselves? Governments come in many forms, and each one changes how people live. Today, we're breaking down the major systems of government in simple terms. First up, monarchy. A monarchy is a government ruled by a monarch, usually a king or queen.
The position is usually inherited, meaning leadership can pass from parent to child for generations. Countries such as the United Kingdom, Japan, Spain, Sweden, and
But not every monarch has the same amount of power. In a symbolic monarchy, the monarch has little or no political power, while an absolute monarchy gives the monarch extensive governing power. So what's the biggest concern with monarchy? The leader may inherit the position without being the best person for the job, creating questions about accountability and democratic representation. Now let's jump to a completely different idea. Socialism. Socialism emphasizes collective control or public ownership of reducing extreme economic inequality. Supporters argue that essential resources should be available more equally. But critics ask, if rewards are less connected to individual effort, could motivation decrease? That's one. Real-world countries rarely fit perfectly into just one political label. Now let's talk about one of the most famous systems, democracy, where political power ultimately comes from the people. Citizens participate by voting for leaders and influencing public policy. The roots of democracy go back to ancient Athens, although modern democracies operate very differently from ancient Athens. Modern democratic systems generally use elections and constitutional institutions. Democracy also emphasizes, but democracy isn't perfect. Elections can create political division, leadership can change frequently, and major decisions can take time because different groups must negotiate. Now imagine the complete opposite. That's where autocracy comes in. In an autocracy, political power is concentrated in one ruler or a very small ruling group, while the public has little meaningful influence over national decisions. Historically, many absolute monarchies operated this way. The Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin is often described as an example of highly authoritarian rule. The biggest danger is concentrated power. When one person faces few limits, abuse of power can become much easier. Next comes federal government, where governmental authority is divided between a national government and regional governments. Think of it like a sports team. The head coach leads the entire team, while assistant coaches manage different responsibilities. They have some independence while still working under the overall system. The United States is one of the world's best-known federal systems. The federal government handles national responsibilities, while state governments have their own powers and laws. Federalism can make governing a huge country more manageable, but different regions can experience very different economic conditions, with one state having enormous resource while another struggles. Now let's enter the world of oligarchy. Oligarchy literally means rule by a few. Instead of millions of citizens controlling political power, a small elite dominates decision-making. These elites may gain influence through wealth, military power, family connections, or political networks. Oligarchy can create a huge gap between powerful elites and ordinary citizens. Wealth can translate into political influence, and political influence can create even more wealth. Now let's look at the republic, where political authority is exercised through representatives and public institutions.
Citizens elect representatives to make decisions on their behalf. A country can be both a republic and a democracy, such as the Philippines, while Canada is a democracy but
So government labels can overlap. Next comes communism. Communist theory aims for a classless society with common ownership of productive resources, and Karl Marx's ideas. Communist governments have historically placed major industries and resources under state control. China, Cuba, Laos, North Korea, and Vietnam are commonly classified as communist states. Critics of communist systems point to political repression and restrictions on individual rights, while supporters point to goals such as economic equality and access to basic services. That's the basic idea behind anarchism. Anarchism seeks to eliminate centralized government authority, with people organizing themselves through voluntary cooperation and local decision-making. Anarchism does not automatically mean chaos. Supporters argue that communities can create their own systems without a central state, while critics worry about maintaining security and public order. Now let's compare presidential and parliamentary government. In a presidential system, the president leads the executive branch, while the executive and legislative branches have separate roles.
in a parliamentary system, the executive is closely connected to the legislature. Japan is an example of a parliamentary system combined with a constitutional monarchy.
A constitution establishes the basic rules and limits of government power. Finally, totalitarianism to control politics, the economy, and major aspects of society. Historical examples include fascist Italy under Benito Mussolini and Nazi Germany, while modern North Korea is widely described as highly totalitarian. Who should control that power?